All right, welcome into Big Hitters Only. This is a familiar face on BHO, Brian Murphy from WRAL. Really appreciate his time. We're going to get deep on the Smith Center debate. Brian, what's up, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, Ross. Appreciate it.
What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I've got some overnight oats just ready to go here. I haven't gotten to them yet.
Love it. It is 10:05 a.m. on Thursday, January 29th. We're going to dive deep into the Smith Center issue. Set the stage here. They want to renovate or build a new arena. Either renovate the Smith Center or build a new arena. The two locations that have come out that are kind of under debate based on reporting from Inside Carolina and tons of others is build at Carolina North, which is about 1.4 miles from Franklin Street, probably 1.6 from campus roughly, or build on Odom Village, which on campus, but super far south, kind of the equivalent distance as a Smith Center, as I would say. It's kind of back in a neighborhood almost. It's an old neighborhood. And so there's three options with different price points. I have the numbers here based on what Greg Barnes has recovered, and Brian's done a lot of reporting as well. There's a lot of elements here. It's a super interesting conversation. Brian, set the stage on kind of the general, your thoughts on it, and kind of where this debate is and where it's going and where it's been.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's been talked about for over a decade. North Carolina administration has known something is going to happen with the Smith Center, whether that's a massive renovation or building a new arena for about a decade, and they've talked about it. Bubba Cunningham, who's been the athletic director for most of that time, has talked about it a lot, and it's just never gotten the momentum that it has right now. And last year, and I'm looking at some old stories that I wrote last year in 2024, actually, they a report came out that they had 6 options for what to do with the basketball arena. The Bulls parking lot, obviously right next to the Smith Center. Odom Village, as you mentioned. Renovate the Smith Center, which we're hearing a lot about now. Replace the Smith Center, just tear it down, rebuild it. The Friday Center, and Carolina North. Now, obviously, some of those options, Carolina North, Odom Village, renovating the Smith Center, seem to percolate up to the top here. But this is something they've been, talked about for a decade, really studied now for getting on 2 years, and seem to be back at ground zero because of this well-funded campaign and the ideas of what to do at Carolina North. They really don't. It's going to be months, I think, maybe longer before they make a decision.
Yeah, so they've delayed the decision, it seems. And if you're a little quiet, I don't know if that's just where your mic is or your settings, but I'm sure post-production would fix it. I just want to make sure there's no issue on your end. So they've, I think it was all kind of going towards Carolina North. And they had this kind of, a couple weeks ago, Save the Smith Center movement on Instagram and mostly Twitter. And they released this video with Roy Williams saying, renovate the Smith Center. There's all these memories. There's tons of emotional, heartstrings and all the history there. And then Tyler Hansborough releases a video, kind of similar things about saving the Smith Center. There's so many memories there. It's a awesome arena, all this stuff. And like you said, they've had to delay this decision, which I think was heading towards, correct me if I'm wrong, heading towards Carolina North. Kind of, I think the wheels have been in motion and they already have all these designs. They've already done a lot of the engineering and construction plans. And then now they're like, all right, we got to take a step back and at least listen to the pleas from fans. I just pulled up a tweet from, I think I saw it. You actually retweeted it today. 750,000 voices have signed the petition to renovate the DTH. They bought an ad in DTH. All the students held it up at the last home game saying renovate, don't rebuild. So there's this debate about saving the Smith Center and renovating it, which is very, very expensive, or building a new arena. And the thing with renovation is that they're going to have to completely gut it and essentially build a whole new arena inside this Dean Dome, including renovating the roof, fixing the seating, getting what they need in terms of making it a state-of-the-art facility. And so the debate is like, all right, do we spend all this money to renovate a building that's not that great, or we just spend more and build a state-of-the-art facility in a different location? And there's 2 locations, also Odom and Carolina North. And so there's this super interesting debate over money, funding, plus the emotional baggage of players and alums. And so it's just like I think it's a super interesting debate that has so many different factions, elements, emotions, money, the future of athletics, NIL, premium boxes, and everything like that. So, What do you think about the? Let's start there. What do you think about
Yeah.
renovating the Smith Center? Like, where does that kind of fall? And your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, there's so much you went through there. I mean, it did seem like everything was headed to Carolina North, and then there was a call I, with former players where they
Yeah,
really expressed their dissatisfaction with that idea, and that sort of started this entire thing. There's been very good reporting on those calls, and now Lee Roberts has announced that there's going to be two new committees, one made of basketball folks, one made of students, to try to make this decision. I mean, they're going to talk themselves to death over this issue because it's so complicated, as you laid out. I mean, one of the things I don't think they were anticipating was Roy Williams quoting Dean Smith and sort of saying this was Dean's last wish to keep the Smith Center on campus. Like it's going to be. I had a really smart person tell me who's connected to all this stuff. Tell me, how are you going to fundraise when Roy Williams quoting Dean Smith and Tyler Hansborough have come out against building a new arena? It's going to make fundraising almost impossible. And then to the group that you're talking about, 21,000 signatures is great. I tweeted about this, but pay up, pony up. If you want to keep the Smith Center, then you got to generate a lot of money, maybe over $400 million to fix the Smith Center. I think that's the biggest problem with renovating the Smith Center is you mentioned gutting it. How much is it going to cost to fix a building that just has problems? Like
yeah,
the roof needs to be fixed. There need to be more work done to make it compliant with the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. There's problems on the concourse. That alone, the number I've been given is about 150 million just to get that stuff fixed. Like we're not even talking about enhancing the building in any way. We're not talking about adding suites, some of the stuff that really generates revenue. And that does, all right, so that, all right, we have enough money to fix all that stuff. You still haven't solved the problem of in egress and, getting to the game, parking, and getting away from the game. I'm lucky. I get to the games a couple hours early. I don't have to deal with traffic. I leave, well after the game's over, the traffic's gone. If you're a regular fan, a typical fan, you're dealing with enormous traffic. The game against Notre Dame, fans weren't showing up until midway through the first half because they couldn't get there. The
yeah.
traffic was a problem. You can't hold events at the Smith Center at night, like concerts and other revenue-generating events, because of the parking issues, because of the hospital is right there, and you can't disrupt campus life. So, look, I went to Chapel Hill. I walked down that hill and went to many, many basketball games there, and I get the emotional appeal. But like, if you look at it from a financial or future standpoint, you're not looking at what the arena is going to be like in 2026 or 2030. This decision is what is it going to look like in 2050 and 2060. The Smith Center is 40 years old, so you've got to make a 40, 50-year decision on what to do next.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of awesome points there. So let's get the money here to renovate the Smith Center. I've heard the roof alone is like 80 million. That may be a little too high. Capital repairs and maintenance listed as 66 million. Expansion to the south side for luxury suites at 87 million. Expansion to the north side is 36.5 million. A new basketball facility on the east side where the natatorium is would be 46 million. So the total cost of the renovation is 470 million. And then they have all these soft costs along with replacing the natatorium, moving up to 576.1 million. This is from Greg Barnes, Inside Carolina. So you're looking at it's probably go over budget. You're looking at 600 million at least.
Inflation and construction costs just are going up and up and up as someone who's followed what they're trying to do at Lenovo Center. I mean, they're not getting nearly as much as they thought they could for that money. So, you're talking, say $700 million.
Yeah, and you're not getting exactly what you want. Like, you're not getting the exact concourse you want because you have to renovate the concourse that you have. I don't know the deal with how would they change the seating, because I think the ideal arena is kind of what Virginia or even like what Duke has right now, or some of these other arenas where you have 10 rows of students kind of all the way around the court, maybe one baseline, and then one, NC State has that too. Then you have students on one side and maybe the other baseline. And then you have the rich seats right above that with a great view, a sitting view. But you have maybe 2,000 students around the court, plus another area for students. You'd have to change the whole seating alignment there in the Smith Center for that to happen. I don't even know if they would do that with the seating license. That's a whole other issue I don't even want to get into because that's very, very complicated.
Right, and in my mind, that's the whole key to the whole thing. If you stay at the Smith Center, then are those people who bought those seats to help finance the Smith Center and can pass them along for 2 generations, are those people still locked into those seats? Because if they are, then you can't do any of the stuff you're talking about. You
Yeah.
can't you can't move them out. You can't put students there.
And Lee Roberts, with your question when you interviewed him in a little scrum there, I mean, he came out and said, like, we want as many students as possible in the arena, close to the court. And that's what fans and Roy Williams and Hubert Davis and everyone associated with UNC basketball wants is students close to the stadium, close to the court, making noise, getting loud. And then you can still have the rich seats with a more comfortable, more vertical view. But you'd have to build a whole new arena to get exactly that. Plus, obviously, the renovations in the Smith Center, they'd build tons of boxes. Like, that's so complicated. You're not going to get exactly what you want there. And they need, what, 25 to 30 boxes, premium boxes, because that is where the revenue is. You have more expensive seats in a new arena, plus these premium corporate boxes from a Wells Fargo, from the biggest law firm in Charlotte, from the biggest law firm in Raleigh, from UNC Hospital, Wake Hospital, all these big corporate entities spending, hundreds of thousands a year to rent out a box there, and you can't get exactly what you want in the Smith Center. Not to mention the concourse complications, better bathrooms, practice facility for the team, better locker rooms, and then the transportation's huge. The hospital's right there. Campus is right there. There's only like kind of two ways in, and it's like one lane roads. It's a small town. It's hard to get in there, like you said, up that hill off of Manning, coming in on Manning there off of 54. Like, it's just so congested. It's not a pleasant experience. As a fan, I've been a fan and a media member. I've been both, kind of am both. Like, it's comfortable watching the game at home. You have your soda, your beer, you can have dinner. You have a nice sofa. You have the commentators you can listen to. You have replay. You have a comfortable couch. It is a pleasant experience watching it at home. You have to create a reason for fans to want to go to the game, and that is ease of parking, ease of transportation, ease of bathrooms, better seats, better views. And renovating the Smith Center, I think it would be a huge struggle and a costly struggle to get exactly what you want.
Yeah, they're talking about shrinking the capacity, but generating more revenue, right? And the way you do that is with premium boxes, is with charging much more to have those seats that those people are sitting in. That helped finance the construction of the Smith Center. Lee Roberts hit on this exact point. Like, it's not 40 years ago when you built the Smith Center. Now you're competing against the hockey team that plays at the exact same time as the basketball. You're competing against people with, 65-inch, 75-inch, 85-inch televisions in the comfort of their own home that they can split screen, that they can, turn off when the game's over and be in bed 5 minutes later. So, the thought of building out of Carolina North, and I'm not trying to take sides here, but the thought of building out there is you'd have restaurants to go to before the game. You'd have bars to go to after the game. That would help ease the congestion because not everybody would be coming and leaving at the same time. And then you would also have options for people. Hey, let's make a night out of it. We're not just going to a basketball game. We're going to grab some dinner, go to the game. We'll get some drinks afterward. It'll be a night out, and it'll be something that convinces people, okay, let's leave my couch. Let's leave this awesome setup I got at home, and let's go to the game. And that's going to become more and more important. And we're seeing it, I make this point often because of what I cover, but sports now is less about the games and more about the real estate. And you've got to generate revenue from that real estate around the arena. We've seen it all over the country. The Battery in Atlanta is probably the best example. It's what they're trying to do at the Lenovo Center, and it's what they're going to try to do at all of these college venues. I mean, that's the other, sort of hidden secret of this. They've got to generate more revenue. The athletic budget's going to be about $200 million this year, probably go up another 20 million, maybe more next year. Like, they've got to find revenue streams, and the Smith Center, which produces a lot of money, and I've looked at those numbers, it produces about 30 million a year from basketball. They've got to jump that number up because the expenses continue to go up and up and up.
We might go a little longer than the 20 that I said earlier. This is good stuff. So let's go over the Carolina North numbers. It'd be a 513,000 square foot facility, 16,000 seats, 24 luxury suites. Base cost of the arena is $464 million. Soft costs and escalation projects pushing it to $700 million. And the basketball practice facility alone will be $57 million. Parking deck with 3,000 vehicles at Carolina North would be the largest additional cost at $180 million. So this cost total, all that combined, $900 million. estimated. I mean, that is crazy.
Call
But
it a
people have to
billion.
realize. Go ahead.
Yeah, call it a billion. I mean,
Yeah,
whatever the number is, add
that's crazy.
10% to it.
Yeah. And then so people have to realize, I think a lot of people are making a judgment on this, like the students holding up the DTH saying they have no idea. They're not reading Brian Murphy. They're not listening to Big Hitters Only. They're not logged into IC message boards, spending 6 hours a day scrolling through comments. Like the people have to be educated on this, and there's a lot of different factors at play. Carolina North, it's happening. Like it is, they are building out there regardless of the Smith Center being there or not. They're building apartments. They're building dorms. They're building a lot of academic buildings for this whole STEM, research stuff, pushing towards, more UNC getting more involved with AI, engineering, electrical, all these different types of master's programs. They're building a whole campus over there. Again, it's only 1.3 miles from Franklin Street. You can walk there. I mean, you can walk there on a nice November day or a late February day. You can walk there. There's going to be people living there already. And like you said, they own this real estate. So they're going to be able to make money from the restaurants and bars and other facilities. They're going to obviously lease the spot to other companies. And that revenue would go to UNC, whether it's athletics or academics. Like that's going to generate revenue. And they want the Smith Center there to be the linchpin of that operation. And so I think admin and kind of the true money people see that. People that are kind of forward thinking see the Carolina North as like the most future economically viable and productive operation. Is that correct? Is that kind of what you've researched?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. One, I think they kind of tipped their hand. If you look at Bubba Cunningham's contract moving forward when he's no longer the athletic director, the number one priority in his list of job titles, the number one thing listed number one was to oversee Carolina North, the development of Carolina North, which tells you they've been thinking about putting the basketball arena there for a long time. That would be Bubba Cunningham's number one job in his new role as senior advisor to the chancellor. Number two, when I talked about this 40-year decision, Lee Roberts and the administration and the board of governor or board of trustees envisions Carolina North as the main campus or as part of the main campus in 40 years. Like right now we look at it as, oh my gosh, it's a mile and a half away, but they envision if you build a campus out there, it's going to grow towards that down 86, MLK, whatever you want to call it, that road that dumps right into Franklin Street. There's already students living up and down that road,
Yeah.
as far north as you go. And the sense is, if you build that campus at Carolina North, the sprawl of the university is going to push out that way. And there's going to be student housing up and lining that path. There's going to be a rapid transit, a bus system that will run you right down the main campus, right down to the hospital. They've already mapped out where those stops will be. I mean, one of the board of trustees members, Jim Blaine, in the public hearing said, like, these are ancillary issues. Where to put the Smith Center is an ancillary issue to building this campus out. And obviously we look at it from a sports perspective, so we're focused on where the Smith Center goes. But these guys are, see it much differently. Where is campus going? Where is affordable housing? Where is student housing going? Where is going to be this new STEM and AI and the heartbeat of campus going? And that's all at Carolina North because they're kind of landlocked at the main campus, what we traditionally think of. And Lee Roberts spelled it out pretty well, I think, saying it's going to be a traditional campus. It's going to have mixed use. It's going to have quads. It's going to feel like a campus and not just, office buildings somewhere in an office park somewhere. So I think when you're thinking 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 years down the line, they're thinking that is going to be like as much a part of campus as South Campus.
Yeah, I mean that's all great stuff. I think also the thing is funny following Lee Roberts on social media, Instagram and Twitter. Like he's polished and he knows exactly all the factions. He's like, look, I'm walking my dog in Carolina North Forest, and I have ran there so many times. And you have the liberals and the environmentalists in Chapel Hill. They're worried, like, are you going to take Carolina North Forest? It's a beautiful forest. And he's making a point. Like they're not removing the forest. It's where the old airport is. That's, they're not like, you're obviously going to take down some trees, but they're not taking down the forest there. A lot of good points there. I mean, they're going to build probably like an SRC, a student rec center. They're going to build probably a dining facility there. There's going to be dorms, undergraduate students living there. And you also made a great point, which I've thought about, is that there's tons of just apartments, master students, undergrads living up and down MLK. I mean, in all directions in Chapel Hill, people living, but there's some massive apartment complexes on that way up MLK to 40. You talk about, 40 kind of dumps out right there and then dumps out into Franklin. So it kind of creates this flow of traffic on a main road. I don't know if I read it somewhere, maybe it was you, that, there's going to be maybe some different roads they're going to create to make the traffic flow better. They're going to make a state-of-art facility, but also the operations and engineering construction rounds can be very forward-thinking because they're 40 years older. They have a better idea of what population looks like, where people are living, what the facility needs, what that whole operation needs. So it'll be dialed in. That's why I just think, my opinion is that Carolina North is the best option. Look, the money's going to be tough. I don't know if you heard what John Henson said on the 24/7 Sports UNC podcast with Andrew Jones, that they might get Jordan Brand involved as one of the major sponsors to the arena, have a big Jordan Brand symbol on top of it or whatever, and be very branded with the Jordan Brand. And that would, maybe that's where you get $500, million, or, how much they want to fork up for that.
There's no doubt you'd sell naming rights to it. I mean,
of course,
it might be the Jordan Brand at Deanie Smith Center. I mean, like, they've got to monetize every possible outlet. It's why you're going to see, the NCAA approved jersey patches. I'm sure you're going to see jersey patches on basketball uniforms, on football uniforms. They are looking for every single dollar they can find as they try to keep up with the rising cost of college athletics, which includes paying the players, and to have a basketball arena that you can really only use 16 times a year, 20 times a year, maybe for a graduation ceremony. It doesn't make sense to have an arena sit empty those many days when you could be making money off of that arena, whether it's through leases, whether it's through other events, concerts, whatnot. If they don't build a basketball arena out there at Carolina North, they're going to build some kind of venue to take advantage of, concerts that maybe don't have a place to go. Maybe it's a smaller venue. But they're going to try to monetize Carolina North. They're going to monetize anything they do, whether they build at Odom Village, whether they build at Carolina North, whether they tear down the Smith Center and rebuild it in the exact same place. It is not going to be the same. It is going to be corporatized, and it is going to be a revenue-generating machine.
Love it. Corporatized. You made up a word there. Another thing about renovating the Smith Center is, like, where does the team play for those, 2, 3, 4 years? You're playing in Greensboro for half the season. You're playing games in Charlotte. You're playing games Asheville, Wilmington. Like, are you playing in Carmichael? I mean, you are losing money, and you're really affecting those players' experience and the students who are in school for those 3 or 4 years. They're missing out on a home arena for 3. I mean, that's a small, like a short-sighted reason, but I mean, that sucks for those students who don't have a arena on campus or close to campus for 3 or 4 years as the renovations take place. Or, it'd be cool to play a couple games in Carmichael, but you're losing tons of revenue playing in Carmichael because of the lack of ticket sales. So that's another complication with renovation. So that's why I think building a new arena, whether that be in Odom Village or Carolina North, I think is going to happen. Odom Village, quickly, it's a new kind of idea here. Similar size building. The base cost is $432 million. Total cost would be $630 million. So a little bit more expensive than renovation, but significantly cheaper than building at Carolina North. But you still have the issues with hospital parking and hospital facilities there, and the transportation issues and traffic issues coming in and out are not improved at Odom Village. It's essentially adjacent to where the Smith Center is now. So I don't think you solve much other than having a brand new facility at Odom Village. I want to dive into this, Ryan. The factions at play here. You have this, because I think this is where you kind of thrive with your sources and stuff. The Smith Center South campaign is being run on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and they have these signatures. You got the video with Hansbrough and with Roy Williams. It's being funded by someone. It's being operated by someone. It's made an impact, buying the ad in DTH. Someone really wants it to say at the Smith Center and is putting their personal money behind it. And you have the administration that really wants it. I think mostly wants it to happen at Carolina North. You have former players, you have fans, you have the people who have seat license, you have the big donate. They're going to need big money people to throw in a couple million here and there to build the new arena or to renovate. Take us behind the scenes on the different factions, the succession type characters that are making moves here in the last couple of months.
Yeah, I've certainly heard some, at least a name that's behind the Smith Center group, and until I can confirm that, I don't want to give that name out. But someone that has money and has sophistication, right? That to drop that Roy Williams video, as well produced as it was, to drop the Tyler Hansborough video, to have a full page ad in the Daily Tar Heel right at the same time, the same week that Lee Roberts is pitching the idea of Carolina North, building Carolina North, looking for money to get site planning and all that from the Board of Trustees. I mean, that was well done, like from a PR standpoint. They know what they're doing, the people behind this thing. They've generated more than 21,000 signatures now. So they have a very well organized, campaign against this. On the other hand, I think you have the administration that says, if we're going to build this beautiful new facility and make it one of our, shining parts of campus, well, how awesome would it be to have the basketball arena there? Not only from a financial standpoint, but now you're attracting people out to that new part of campus. It feels like part of campus. Like, it really starts to integrate Carolina North into the entire campus life. If you're having to go out there, if everyone's traveling out there 15, 16 times a year for home basketball games, like, it kind of starts to become part of campus. And so you've got those two competing things. I think on the PR battle, Lee Roberts has been outflanked, right? Certainly this new group has outflanked them. All the old players coming out. I've seen Bryce Johnson on Twitter really going after it. I mean, they've been out PR'd a little bit by this group and others. And I think they're going to have to take these numbers that you've been reciting out to the public. They're going to have to start to show pictures of, like, this is what it's going to look like. They're going to have to sell that part that you just talked about. Like, we might not be able to play on campus for 4 years or 5 years as we try to renovate this thing. What does that do for our basketball program? What does that do for the students that are here? Like, they're going to have to up their PR game, because I think they're losing that PR battle. And certainly there's a lot of big money behind all of this. And in order to get them funding for this, kind of what I talked about at the beginning, you're going to have a fan base that's coalesced around one idea. This is the best idea. Let's donate the money. Let's raise the money. Let's fundraise. Let's find brands that want to get interested in this. And so it's going to take a big PR campaign. I thought the plan was, and I've reported this, many others have, to announce a decision before the end of 2025. That decision has been delayed indefinitely. Lee Roberts announced 2 new committees. He said, we're going to talk to as many people as we can. I've been told that decision, like, don't expect it anytime soon. So Now you've pushed it back another year. All those costs you talked about, they've gone up. The cost of construction, the cost of labor, the cost of all of that stuff has gone up. It's going up every single day. And the longer you put this off, you can add another 10 or 15% to all those prices that you just mentioned.
Yeah. And quickly here.
Not to mention, and sorry, one more point, not to mention the need for repairs at the Smith Center continue to grow. Like, at some point, you're going to have to replace that roof. If you're not going to be in another place, you're going to have to replace the roof. And as you said, that could be upwards of $80, $90 million already for an arena that you may be leaving. So, like, time is going to become an issue.
Love it. Great stuff there. Quickly, Big Hitters 20 is the new promo code for your Roback stuff. Check out roback.com. Big Hitters 20. Here's a sweatshirt there. You keep coming on, Brian. I'm going to have to send you a free sweatshirt. Big Hitters 20.
Put a little logo right here.
Yeah, we'll get you a non-UNC one since you're a big J. We'll have to get you just a generic one, maybe put a WRAL on there. Check it out, roback.com. Really supports us, helps us produce this podcast, helps me pay Garrett and Connor behind the scenes. Big Hitters 20 is a new promo code, 20% off all your stuff on Roback. You hit on a lot of good stuff there. Outflanked. Yeah, it is. That's why it's so interesting. I mean, it's like a documentary could be happened on kind of the PR, the admin, the fundraising, the money, the athletics aspect, how college athletics is changing now with NIL and the need to generate revenue. I just hope people are educated and know all the different stuff behind the scenes on, like, the benefits and the negatives to each option, and think about the future. You got to think, like you said, this is not 5-10 years. This is 20, 30, 40 years ahead. What's going to be the best option for the 2060 Tar Heels and students that are going to school then? Fundraising is huge. Like that's super complicated, but everything's going to be expensive. So I have to find that. I think It's kind of that PR move was crazy to come out right when Lee Roberts was trying to get support to do that. I just don't. I just if UNC administration wants to pay me to promote Carolina North, I will willingly take money. I will take blood money. I will do it. I will promote anything I need to promote to do this. But I just think Carolina North makes way more sense. It's way more expensive. But like the emotional aspect of it, like
Yeah.
were people fed up when they moved from Carmichael to the Smith Center? Like,
Yes.
do people get pissed off about that? Like, you have to adapt and change. And like, Smith Center is just for a fan, it is not the best option.
One of the most interesting things I thought Robert said was that, and I'm quoting here, he says, first, and by far the most important, how do we win as many basketball games as possible at a time when that's becoming more expensive for everybody?
Yeah.
And like, I'm not sure the right answer to that, but if you look at it through that prism, what is the best way to win as many basketball games as possible? And that means you got to generate revenue. That means you got to have a great fan experience. You got to, I've heard people say like, look, when NC State moved from Reynolds to Lenovo, they lost all that fan exposure or student exposure, and now it's an easier place to play. Like, I think you have to factor all that stuff in when you're making this decision. What is best for the actual basketball program? Because you need that basketball program to be very good, one, for all kinds of reasons, but not the least of which it needs to generate a lot of revenue to help you pay for everything else that you got going on.
And I think another thing to realize is that, at the Lenovo Center, PNC Arena, whatever, it's a Carolina Hurricanes arena too. It's not like all NC State. I think the Smith Center, it's going to be called the Smith Center, it's going to be called Roy Williams Court. They move to the Carolina North. It's going to be it's going to be all UNC centric arena. Like they could have concerts there, but it's still going to be UNC's basketball arena. I think that's important to realize as well. And yeah, Lee Roberts laid it all out. Like, having fans closer to the court gives UNC a competitive advantage. And if they're able to generate, 50 million or 100 million more a year at the Carolina North, and look, I don't know if those numbers are even close to being accurate, but if they can make 20 million more a year at Carolina North over, 40 years, like, that's a no-brainer. If they can what do you think they would be able to make more at Carolina North versus, do you have any concept versus renovating the Smith Center?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't. I don't have that number, but number one, you can sell naming rights. Much easier, I think, than you can to a 40-year-old building. But maybe you can sell naming rights to the Smith Center. I don't know. North Carolina generated, and this is over the last 3 years that I have numbers for, about $32 million a year in total revenue for men's basketball. They spent about $13 million. That number's certainly going to go up next year with NIL.
Is that from like all Learfield stuff and seats and
that is ticket sales? There's about 20 different categories, but it's ticket sales, student fees, media rights that they have to decide how much of those media rights were for football, how much were for basketball. But their number, and now, but football on the other hand, I have those numbers right here too. Football, at least in fiscal year 24, so the 23-24 academic year, football was generating $67 million. Basketball was generating $32 million. That's when you see the split that Bubba Cunningham outlined for why revenue sharing goes 67% to football and 30% or 33% to basketball. It's those numbers right there. Football's generating about 2/3 of the money. Basketball's generating 1/3 of the money. So can you push that number higher? Kansas, which plays at Fog Allen, that has come up a lot. In the next fiscal year, so 1 year further than I have numbers for Carolina, they generated about $22 million in revenue from men's hoops. Some of that might be their television deal isn't quite as lucrative and things like that. NC State generated about $20 million in basketball revenue. So North Carolina is already at the high end of what you would consider, obviously Kansas is a peer, NC State in some ways is a peer. They're already generating more basketball revenue than those schools, but I think they look at the Smith Center and say, we can generate even more revenue. We can drop the capacity and still generate additional revenue from, seat licenses and suites and club seats and other events at the arena, a naming rights package, all that stuff. So 33 million, 32 million is a lot of money, but I think they think there are growth opportunities for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of like just getting better and bigger video screens and signage in and around the arena. I interned for Learfield back in the day at Eastern Michigan, not back in the day, a couple of years ago. I was on their Learfield Eastern Michigan staff, and like it's just interesting. You sell signage, you sell every piece of real estate to make money. Eastern Michigan on a much smaller scale than UNC and UNC basketball. I mean, you can have some big LED screen that wraps around the entrance, to the arena, and you're putting ads on that, and that is just you're providing more, you're adding value to that sponsorship with Wells Fargo or with Coca-Cola or with XYZ, and then not to mention the naming rights. What are we waiting for Kenan Stadium and the Smith Center to be named something? Slap something on there and call it, give me a company. The Roback Stadium, Kenan Stadium at Chris Smith Field, and you'll go like, some beer company for basketball. It's just you're leaving money out there by not doing this, and UNC is so slow to adapt to these things. Like, you can still have the tradition and everything. Just advertise it, man. NASCAR, baby. Let's go, Newmark.
Well, I think, Rick Bearcat is the chief revenue officer and has talked about really pushing the envelope in ways that Carolina hasn't. Part of the problem with the Kenan and probably with the Smith Center is you can't take Kenan off the stadium.
Yeah.
At Carter Finley, they could take Carter Finley off the stadium and they could name it the Lenovo Stadium or whatever you want to call it, Microsoft Stadium, whatever you have it. Kenan has to keep, at least my understanding, has to keep Kenan. So you're probably going to get less value if it has to be the Roback Kenan Stadium as opposed to just Roback Stadium. And I can't even imagine the controversy that would come if you pulled the Dean Smith Center off the name completely and just called it the Bojangles Dome or the McDonald's Center. The controversy over that would be, I'd be writing about that for weeks if you took Dean Smith's name off of that.
Yeah, Coca-Cola Smith Center. It's just whatever. But it's just, UNC has had an issue of being more reactive instead of proactive, and just the tradition and the old people running it and not wanting to evolve and change. And sometimes you have to try things and be first to it. And I think football this year did some things that were very cool with the pregame thing and finding new ways to make money and at least trying things. I congratulate those behind that, Bearcat and Steinbacher and all those guys. But
I think you're going to have pushback, right? Yeah. Cameron Indoor Stadium is not going to become, whatever. Throw out a company. Fog Allen, it's going to stay Fog Allen. Those are the people. Rupp Arena in Kentucky. Those are the people that North Carolina compares themselves to, and they say, well, if Duke has a great program, they have tons of money. They don't need to sell naming rights to Cameron Indoor Stadium. Why do we need to sell naming rights to the Smith Center just to be competitive? Like, we shouldn't have to do that. And it is an interesting debate, but times are changing so fast. I do wonder, eventually everything's going to be sold.
And Duke has that fund, right? Run by a bunch of New York investment bankers. That's just unlimited money. They just say, hey, we need a player. Hey, give us $6 million.
Well, what I would love to really get into is how much money do they generate from Cameron? Obviously a lot smaller than the Smith Center, but what are they charging for the right to buy season tickets? Like, what does your donation have to be? Obviously, the Smith Center is handicapped a little bit, and UNC basketball is handicapped a little bit by the fact that those seats are guaranteed to people who paid 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, if those seats were up for sale now, and you had to donate $100,000 or $250,000 just to have access to those seats, well, then suddenly you're making a lot more money at Carolina. So that's one comparison I would love to see is what the get-in cost at Duke is versus kind of the get-in cost for those same great seats at Smith Center.
The Smith Center is way too big, and Roy Williams said this when I covered him, that he wants a smaller arena because the Smith Center is only full twice a year. I think when Duke's there and maybe when State's there. It is very like Notre Dame. It was half full at tip, maybe 1/3 full at tip, and then maybe 60% full by the second half. They need to condense it and make the seats more valuable. I know that sucks because it's not going to be as easy to get tickets. You can get in some of these games in the cold of winter. You can get in for $15. They got to increase the value of it and charge more. And I know it sucks because not everybody doesn't get to go to games, but it creates a better atmosphere when you charge a little bit more for the lower seats, like you said, and make it harder and more money for the rich donors to buy those seats. That's a whole different thing there as well. The University of the People. All right, Brian, anything else you want to touch on? This is great stuff. You're awesome as always.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've heard the end of this. This is going to go on for months and months, and it'll be interesting to see how much public feedback they get and whether or not the administration starts to fight back and sort of the PR side of things.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, any sort of timeline, like the summer. I mean,
Yeah,
they need to
I
take
think
they need to take their time too. I have no problem with them waiting, and I want them to make sure Roy Williams feels heard, former
right.
players feel heard. You need to get everybody on board. I mean, this is politics. You're trying to gather as much support for what you want, so that when it happens, you can fundraise and you have everybody on board for the right options. So you're kind of unifying the fan base. Sorry. Any idea of a time frame or what's next?
Yeah, I don't think you can rush it, right? If you're saying we want to hear from as many people as possible, so I would think at least 6 months, maybe longer. Now they have time. I just mentioned how they don't have time because the Smith Center needs some repairs, but they have time. Construction at Carolina North is not going to even start till probably next year, and that's only going to be on one, probably one building out there. It's going to take a while to build out Carolina North, so I think they'll do site plans for Carolina North with a basketball arena and without a basketball arena. But I really do think they've got to. If the administration is eager or wants to move this building off campus, they're going to have to start showing plans like this is the arena, this is what it would cost. Look at the views that you would have. Look at the angles. Here's what we think we can get concert wise. Or
Yeah.
they're going to have to start selling the idea of moving the campus, of moving the basketball arena, because right now, staying on campus, the nostalgia is certainly winning.
Dude, they need to release, state of the art videos showing everything. Like, this is how sick it's going to be. You're going to be able to walk in. This is what's going to look like. This is what the stadium looks like. This is what student seating could look like around
Right.
there. Like, make a whole video showing every aspect of the setup. That'd be really cool. But you kind of have to be delicate because you don't want to
Right.
disrupt the powers that be behind the scenes and all the basketball alums who carry a lot of weight and also have a lot of money.
Right.
Got to get, maybe get Michael Jordan involved. All right, Brian, this was great, guys. Big Hitters 20 on Roback. We always appreciate your time. Stay tuned. We have UNC walk-on who played for Roy, Spenser Dalton, coming up next. He's going to give us more of the player, fan, emotional sentiment tied to the Dean Dome, but also very analytical guy who's be able to break down things. Brian, appreciate your time.
Yep. Thanks.
All right, welcome back into Big Hitters Only. I hope you enjoyed Brian Murphy from WRL. Really appreciate his time talking about the Smith Center. Again, Big Hitters Only 20. Sorry, Big Hitters 20 on Roback, roback.com, Big Hitters 20. All right, bring back on Spenser Dalton, fresh off the Virginia podcast. We touched on the Smith Center debate then, but I wanted to get a little more in depth with Spenser as a former player, part of the Carolina family, someone who was also on that big call with a lot of administrators, former players, athletic people, and just have a kind of an open conversation about the debate. I think it's super interesting. So, Spenser, we already talked with Brian Murphy about the numbers, the options. We got Carolina North with the complete new build. Got Renovate the Smith Center, which has gained momentum with Roy's video and Tyler Hansborough's video and people wanting to keep it on campus. And the Odom Village option, which is kind of still on campus, but it's a complete new rebuild, but still has some of the issues, traffic, hospital, maybe not exactly what the administration wants in terms of a linchpin to the Carolina North development. You were on that call. Let's start there. Your general thoughts coming out of that call on like how you felt versus and like how other people felt about this critical debate that's going to shape UNC basketball for the next 50 years.
Yeah, so that call was with former players, former coaches, Roy Williams, all sorts of people, got lowly walk-ons such as myself all the way up to national championship winning players, Tyler Hansborough's. So it was pretty much everyone. We got a great email from Hoots, like, please join this call with the chancellor and the athletic director. And so I was excited to join, honored to be included. My opinion in all of this is probably not as valued as other former players' opinions might be. But
hey, let's go to Spenser Dalton in Virginia Beach and see what he thinks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't have dreamt of speaking on that call, but again, it was big hitters, Ross. It was big hitters from the history of Carolina basketball, So it was kind of exciting. And they talked about a lot of the stuff that everyone has talked about what has gone into making this decision from the administration's perspective. They ran through the process and told all of the former players and coaches about like what all has gone into making this decision and everything. And so, regardless of which direction that the administration ends up going, I think the general sentiment that came out of that call was that players and coaches had not been as included in those discussions as they would have liked. So I mentioned this in our last podcast. Like, we're really drawing on emotion here. We're drawing on history. And so when you look to do things to an arena that has, is it 40, 50, 40 years of history, like you're really pulling at people's heartstrings, like from my personal perspective, like I grew up wanting to play basketball in the Smith Center. Like that was what it was for me. Like I went to basketball camp, and when you're a little kid, you don't get to go to the Smith Center except for like an hour in the afternoon, and you get to watch a little clinic or a little scrimmage or something like that. And, that's like the coolest part of camp. You're just off at, Carborough High School or something like that doing your stations in the mornings and afternoons. And so that's a highlight, and obviously going to games is a huge thrill. So like, you see the jerseys in the rafters, you see the Carolina blue seats, you see all of the history, and you think about all of the people that have walked those halls and stepped on that court and played. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about history. We're talking about legacy. A lot of people know the stories about how the Smith Center was built and all of the private funding and that went into it, and how it was the Dean E. Smith Student Activities Center. And, I think it's just a really difficult thing for folks to consider that the administration would make, by appearances, a more financially driven decision than one that is more aimed at, augmenting but still preserving history.
Yeah. First of all, I want to congratulate Spenser on getting a podcast mic. He sounds much better than on. Yes, let's see it. If you're watching on YouTube, Spenser has a great podcast mic, and you sound great. All right. A lot of good stuff in there. Who led the meeting? I mean, and first of all, I don't want you to give out any details you don't want to give out, but like, I just kind of want to understand the dynamics. Was it Bubba and Steve Newmark and Lee Roberts? I'm assuming.
Yep.
Okay.
That's who it was. Everybody spoke and everybody listened.
There's just those three spoke, and then I'm sure Roy chimed in, and maybe a player or two, or some other admin or former coach, assistant coaches, boots.
Yep.
So what was I going to say? Oh, another thing I'm interested in is with all these decisions being made. Like, I'm interested in how much Newmark is guiding it versus how much Bubba is guiding it. Because Bubba and Brian Murphy mentioned this. Bubba's like title when he steps down from being athletic director is like he's in charge of Carolina North from an athletic standpoint, or maybe from an academic standpoint. Like, he has been given the designation of like coordinating Carolina North for the chancellor as like the conciliary, whatever it's called. And that was decided 6 months ago, 9 months ago, whenever that transition made. So that's kind of an interesting factor, like, because I think administration like just thought that it was all going to happen at Carolina North. This gets into kind of your point about them not including the basketball folks in this conversation. Got a little over their skis, and some people probably got offended. Like, look, hey, like we deserve a voice in this as well. And that's a powerful voice. Roy Williams, Tyler Hansbrough, all the former players. Were there like pretty famous like NBA players on there as well? Like Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson, James Worthy, like that level, Rasheed Wallace?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
Theo
anyway.
Pinson was there. Joel Berry was there. Justin Jackson was there. A lot of recent guys like that are at the top level.
I'm just wondering if like Vince Carter's like phoning in from like the golf course. Anyway,
Mitch Kupchak, he was on.
Who? Mitch Kupchak?
Mitch Kupchak.
Yeah, he's pretty involved. You see him in a lot of games.
Yeah.
He has that pass that gets you into that back parking lot. You know, it's nice and easy when you're an alum and a former player just cruising that parking lot. It's a little bit different when you're a fan. So obviously the video released by Roy and this whole push, which we talked about with Brian, like this push by Tyler and Roy to save the Smith Center and to renovate, has been powerful. And you got all these signatures now on that petition, 21,000. And it's just an interesting dynamic of like, yeah, pulling at their heartstrings, and former players and fans donors don't want to go against Roy, or at least publicly go against Roy. And it's not smart for the chancellor to go against Roy because he's such a fan favorite, having brought 3 championships to UNC and guided the program for 18, 20 years, and obviously the descendants of Dean Smith, and having coached Michael Jordan, all this good stuff. So it created this like interesting PR move and power play that I think the administration now has had to take a step back and include them in the conversations. But this big PR move to renovate is also probably create a big issue for them to kind of get this thing going. There's not a question there. Just like dive in.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think. I completely agree with you, Ross. I mean, you've got like the guy that is the standard bearer, the flag holder, whatever you want to call it, for Carolina basketball. He's Roy Williams. He is the most salient connection that we have to Dean Smith. You know, coached under him, took over the reins from, I guess there were a couple coaches in between, but you know, he was Coach Williams was Dean's first choice, you know. So really that through line.
He's the current godfather of UNC hoops.
Yeah,
everybody reports to him. He still has a lot of push and power behind the scenes for decision. I mean, he's the one who essentially hired Hubert Davis. Like he was at least making a lot of decisions even after he was not the head coach anymore. Continue, sorry.
Yeah, and so we're talking about the one big question that is at the center of all of this is what is best for Carolina basketball? That's the question that I know Coach Williams is asking himself when he thinks about all of this. What is best for Carolina basketball? And you know, you'd be wrong to say that the administration and Chancellor Roberts and Newmark and Bubba and all these guys aren't asking themselves that same question. You know, they have not indicated to me that they're making a decision that is based on some other question than that. You know, do you have any thoughts on that?
What is best for UNC basketball?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm referencing the Brian Murphy interview. You've just listened to that. Money is a huge factor now for creating a roster that will win games. And Lee Roberts said it in a press conference. He went out of his way to say it. He goes, "What drives winning? What is the most important thing in driving winning? That's what we need to focus on." And of course, a couple things drive winning. You know, money is probably up there now because that can pay for coaches. That can pay for obviously players. You know, you need money to get reserves. You need players for recruits. You need money for recruiting. And obviously paying the big contracts to retain good players and get new good ones. That is way more important than it was when Roy Williams was recruiting, you know, Ty Lawson and Tyler Hansbrough and John Henson and Kendall Marshall. There might have been some money behind the scenes. Who knows? But money wasn't the driving factor. It was playing for Coach Williams. It was playing in Chapel Hill. It was being in a cool college town. It was being on campus, having a cool arena that's walkable from where you live and from dorms and stuff. And the Carolina family used to be a huge factor in recruiting. A lot of the stuff that's important in player acquisition now is fallen by the wayside. I think because I do this for a living. I cover recruiting a little bit. It's money, man. That is the driver. So what brings the most money? Is it a new arena that has the exact boxes you want and better seats you can charge more for, and seat licensing that you can charge the really rich donors for to pay up front, and then the average, like the marketing of it with, you know, Coca-Cola sign and a Wells Fargo sign and a Jordan brand sign, all this video signage, naming rights to an arena, and they could probably still do a lot of that stuff at a renovated Smith Center, but could they do it exactly how they want to do it? I think that is kind of the point that the money people and the pro Carolina North people are arguing. I think people know where I stand. I'm kind of pro building a new arena on Carolina North, because I think money is going to drive athletics from this point on.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it's kind of a tragedy in a lot of ways that you have money and almost money alone driving everything in college sports. I mean, it really does suck, like kids are going to stop to, at least to some extent, growing up thinking like, oh, I want to play at Duke, or I want to play at Carolina, or I want to play at, wherever, Kentucky or something like that. They want to walk in the footsteps of history. They're just going to start thinking like, gosh, I kind of want to play anywhere where they're going to pay me, and that's where I'm going. I don't think it's quite as simple as that, but it's just a gradual shift over time that priorities change, and we've seen them change really quickly. But I don't know. It's a really difficult situation because, again, we really are talking about like just crushing a piece of not just Carolina basketball, like college basketball history. College basketball history.
Yeah.
I mean, this is history with a capital H, man.
That's right. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't play. So I have a different perspective. I didn't play at Carolina, but I was a student there and I covered the team. So I have a different perspective than you and a lot of former players. And so the emotional attachment does not hit as hard in terms of like every day going to that locker room and walking on the court.
Yeah, fair enough fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has different perspectives on this. I understand it though. I mean, there is an emotional attachment to, that walking through the locker room onto the court there and running out on the Argyle carpet and, high-fiving Roy and the band's playing and all that stuff. And you do think about moments there. Like I distinctly remember, where Marvin Williams hit his shot, stuff like that. Yeah, you also remember where Rivers hit his shot over Tyler Zeller, and where Duke's hit a lot of game winners. But you also remember, Theo Pinson's big dunk when they were dominating Duke. I mean, there's just things you remember that went on in that Smith Center.
Yeah.
An argument would be like, you have to adapt to modern times, like the Carmichael thing. Like they moved from Carmichael to the Smith Center, and there's a lot of memories in Carmichael that still exist. I think they will demolish the Smith Center if they were to change. I don't think they're keeping that arena. They will demolish it and put hospitals and dorms or administrative buildings or a parking lot and expand the hospital. So it is a little different there. The Carmichael still exists. You can go out there and kind of see the court and everything.
Woolen still exists. Yeah, I think that's a toughie too, is that there probably isn't a utility for the Smith Center if you do move. The Smith Center as it exists. I mean, what do you need it for?
Exactly.
You need the land. You need that road. You need those tennis courts and the whole area around it. You need the natatorium. It's all this stuff, So it's like it's kind of reductive, but it's a little bit about real estate too,
And something that's interesting with they build a new arena, we've talked about it, but like it's going to be state of the art. It's going to have everything, but you can also host events there. You're going to probably host a bunch of cool concerts and shows. So you're making money on that end from it, and then you're also utilizing the land around Carolina North that you would lease to companies and bars and restaurants and apartments and have some dorms there too. So it's a multi-use campus, as Brian Murphy spoke about how it's going to be. It's going to be a full-on campus. Yeah. Whether or not Smith Center's there, it's going to look and feel like you're on North Campus essentially, with quads and facilities that resemble a modern college campus.
Yeah, and I'll jump in there, Ross. Andrew Jones on the 247 podcast said something. So credit where credit is due, is that like this new arena that they do build, or if they were to build it, is what I'm saying, would be awesome. Like there's no way that they would build something that isn't a shrine to Carolina basketball and its history. I'm 100% confident they would maintain that it's the Dean E. Smith Center. They would maintain that it's Roy Williams Court. I mean, that would be a real smack in the face if they didn't do that. So I don't think there's any intention there to not do that. But that all of the facilities and all like the seating arrangement, they'd still have the rafters, they'd still have the banners, and so there is a part of me that says like, man, it'd be really cool to have this just awesome state-of-the-art arena that, again, is just this like shrine to Carolina basketball and its history.
The renovation is so challenging to get what you want. And Lee Roberts said it, you want students close to court. I mean, you want this set up where there's 10 rows of risers on both sides of the court and like right behind the visitors bench, maybe one base or maybe both baselines. And you have this 3,000 students around the court, and then the rich seats, which have a great view. I mean, think of the nicest NBA, the best NBA arena. That's what it's going to be like. Whatever is the most modern NBA arena. Brooklyn's really new. The Hornets recently did a renovation.
Yeah,
I think
it's
Milwaukee,
nice too. I like the Spectrum Center.
It's going to be just like that. I'm not sure the seating exactly, but 16K is what you're hearing. Plus these boxes, which is like, sweet, man. You're going to have buddies texting you like, hey, I got access to the Wells Fargo suite. I have access to the Wayne House, Griffin Kennedy law firm of Raleigh, financial firm box for this game. Bring you and your wife and your kids. I got this sick guy, like essentially the blue zone of the Smith Center. Like that's going to be really cool. So I just hope, I said this before, I hope people are educated about, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, Spencer, you're like, yeah, you want to keep the history and tradition, but it's going to be sick to have a new arena. And guess what? That's not coming out of my pocket. I mean, I'm not paying for this new arena. It's going to have to get funded somehow by some rich people and some sponsorships. It's going to have to get made. But I think over time, it's going to pay for itself and how much it's going to benefit UNC athletics, benefit UNC basketball, maybe get them back on track in terms of competing at a very, very high level where money is never an issue for getting players, never an issue for hiring the best coaches and facilities and strength and conditioning coaches and stuff down the line. So that's a great point too. Let's talk about on campus. Dude, I would love for it to be on campus. Like you want it on campus. It's not super feasible, but that is kind of the ploy or like the strategy used by the pro renovate, like having it on campus. I love that about UNC, about having Keene Stadium on campus, Smith Center on campus. And that goes into the Odom Village element here. As a former player, the benefits of having it on campus versus not, for fans, for students, it is an awesome feature that I don't think will be completely lost with Carolina North, but you're certainly changing that. It's a little bit longer walk, but I think the buses will be dialed and everything. But anything on the on-campus thing from a player perspective? You were probably off campus when you played at Smith Center, right?
Yeah. Well, I played JV, so I was going to and from the Smith Center all 4 years. I mean, I lived in Granville Towers for 2 years and then lived off of Rosemary for a year and then down Church Street for another year. So, coincidentally, my second, I guess all 4 years I would probably be closer to Carolina North than I was to the Smith Center. But, that I wouldn't say that's a big deal or anything. But, something that Chancellor Roberts said is that, there is half an argument for the location of Carolina North because of how many students do live off campus. And if they do live off campus, they live on that side of Franklin Street, on that, I guess it's the west side of Franklin Street, or out MLK. They live in that section of town, So a lot of upperclassmen live down there, So again, there's an argument. It's like, they'd actually be closer to Carolina North than they would be to the Smith Center. But I don't know. I don't love that argument because like Carolina North is not really walkable. It's like a mile and a half and you're just on an actual road.
Yeah.
It's not really ideal. And there's a real beauty and magic, I think, to like walking from Franklin Street down through one of the most beautiful campuses in the country, you pass Keenan Stadium, you pass the bell tower,
Yeah.
you walk through the little section of Morrison and Craig dorms, and then you walk down the hill, and there's this sort of like build up in my mind. I think, especially as a spectator, you're walking down Skipper Bowles Drive. The Smith Center is sitting up there as this like shining beacon on the hill, and so there's a real beauty to it. So I think losing that element would be kind of sad. But yeah, again, the on-campus thing is difficult because there's this argument. It's like, well, it will be on campus technically, but I don't know. It's just not going to be the same. It's not on the main section of campus.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, you painted a picture there. I got goosebumps. I agree. I mean, it's cool having it on campus. I think also like where it is on campus, close to all the freshman dorms, you kind of get that like,
yes,
you're in those massive dorms. I lived in Morrison my freshman year, and yeah, you pop out of your dorm, and 3 minutes later, you're at the Smith Center. People sledding down that hill when it snows. Obviously, hitting James is where the majority of freshmen live. Craig, Airing House, and then I guess all those new dorms they built where the students actually, where the student athletes, all the student athletes live.
Yeah.
I mean, there's tons of people, young, like 18, 19-year-old freshmen, sophomores live down there. So that's a cool thing. It's easy to get there as a student. Not as easy as a fan, as a parent coming in, or as someone who lives off campus. It's not an advantage at Carolina North, but like you said, there is a lot of population of off-campus housing down MLK, and I'm sure they'll dial the bus system where there's gonna be just constant buses running from Carolina Brewery, top of the hill, North Campus dorms, South Campus dorms, and it'd be kind of smooth. I'm sure they'll set up some sort of traffic alignment, which makes sense there. But look, we're speaking like this is done deal. I'm interested to see what happens. It might not be till the summer until they decide this, because I think they really want to listen to the former players, to the administration, to Roy Williams, to everyone involved, to students, and understand, and even promote, make sure everyone understands the benefits of Carolina North versus the benefits of renovating. And they have to sell it too. Like, you need support. You're going to need the rich people to fork over their money and bite seat licensing stuff. Because obviously someone's paying for this PR campaign for that Smith Center South renovation thing. So they've got to get everybody on board and the fan base on board to execute this the way they want to do it. And they don't need to rush it either.
Yeah. And so it's sort of a chicken or the egg on this like sales aspect of it. So it's, do you decide and then sell it, or do you kind of over time sell it knowing what you're eventually going to say in a formal way? And so again, bringing all of the students and the former players in to have this wealth of perspective from all sides, former donors and folks like that who are going to end up funding a piece of this. I mean, it's too much money to be privately funded. I think you might have a quote from somebody saying that, but this is simply just too much money to be funded privately, unless some billionaire just like swoops in and says, "I got it." Which I don't see that happening. So it would be a combination of different funding streams. So a full kind of capital stack. I think debt. Who knows? The university might have to take on debt. I don't know the decisions that go into that. So you're talking about just a lot that goes into it, and so they've told a lot of people about what factors have gone into the decisions. Like, they've run the studies, they've crunched the numbers. And so it would be interesting to start to hear public leanings. Like, which way are we going here? And start getting people on board. Because, again, they haven't really done that. They've just said, okay, here's all the things that we're considering. This is what's going into it. But it's not much past that. It's not like, okay, we're kind of leaning towards this, so we want to start getting people understanding and comfortable with this idea, based on what we're finding. They've really kind of kept these sort of decision type of things away from the public.
They're almost using Inside Carolina as a conduit to spread information about the different options
Yeah,
and
I mean,
maybe gate.
IC has all the sources, man. So it's like they've really got as good information as anybody else.
Yeah,
Probably
and
the
so
best information, you know?
I wonder if they're, I mean, using that as a way to gauge fan support based on those different options. I don't know how this works, but that's how you throw something out there, and then you see if people hate or love it. You spread a
Yeah,
rumor out there, and then you
yeah,
make a decision based on. I mean, it happens in politics, happens in coaching
hmm
hires, and probably all aspects of high level stuff. You kind of don't know exactly how the public reacts. You throw out some test scenarios. So, and I think if they do end up deciding on Carolina North, they're going to need to like create this image of a whole video thing of what it's going to look like, and show pictures and videos of what it's going to appear from the outside and inside, and really sell it so you can get fans behind it. Because like you said, like once you
yeah,
start thinking about it, it's like, oh, this is going to be really sick, and it's really going to help our
yeah,
program recruit and retain and all that good stuff, and make
yeah.
concerts there.
And
And the
they'd
fan,
have time to do that. It's like you can't build an $800 million arena in 2 years or something like that. Like this is going
yeah,
to take a long time. So it's like you make an announcement. You put out an RFQ to a bunch of construction companies, and then like 6 years later, you have an arena. So it's like
yeah.
there's time to get people to warm up to it if indeed they decide that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, there's tons of other construction out there too. So I mean, this might not be 10 years
Yeah,
before we kind of see the finished product on everything there. We were
very
playing basketball
pro.
there before that, but who knows? All right, Spencer, get you out of here. Hey, congrats on getting married.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was a blast. Carolina Inn, New Year's Eve. It was a rocking party.
Yeah, saw all the pictures, the white dinner jacket,
Oh yeah,
the hats. What is anything
yeah.
different now? About a month into being married, anything different?
Well, we went from just let's get through the wedding to now we're trying to buy a house. It was
Okay,
just like hitting the ground running on big life moves. So,
so we're deep in wedding planning right now,
hmm
and it's like, did you have a big say on stuff? Did you handle anything? There's so many things, man. I'm replying
I
to like,
well,
go ahead.
I handled the rehearsal dinner.
Yeah,
Like my family and I, we planned that. So I got with my mom and we figured out what we were gonna do for place settings and flower arrangements for the tables, and figured out the venue, went and did a tasting and everything like that. Plug Med Deli, they catered the rehearsal dinner, and the food was excellent. Chapel Hill staple Mediterranean deli, and our rehearsal dinner was right there on Franklin Street. It's the old West End Wine Bar. They've just turned it into a little event space, and so yeah,
right,
I mean,
like really close to Med Deli, right?
oh yeah, like few doors down,
Yeah,
really close.
yeah.
And it was great. I mean, but yeah, I planned all of that, and like more on the wedding side. I don't know. There were things that I was asked my opinion on, and other things that I wasn't. My wife is a great planner, and she had a wonderful vision. So I
Yeah.
kind of just let her go with things, and it was awesome.
Yeah, we're deep in it now. We're making all the tiny decisions, and I probably am too into it, too involved in the decisions.
Hmm
Sometimes I need to step back, but given my fiance's line of work, I have to reply to stuff and kind of make decisions too. And it's just, dude, it's crazy, man. It's expensive as well.
Yeah. The key for me was being informed, but not
Yeah,
necessarily opinionated. You
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So
It's
I
hard
mean, it sounds kind of crass, but it's just like I wanted to know everything that was going on, but I didn't necessarily need to have an opinion on one thing or the other.
Yeah, I kind of stepped away from flowers and like the plates and cups and all. Dude, I didn't know we had to
Yeah.
even rent plates, cups, cutlery, all
hmm
the all the like stuff. Oh, they provided that. We have to rent it from another place. It's unreal. It's like
Yeah.
a bunch of money too. It's like, jeez.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
We got lucky. Carolina Inn provided like all of that,
yeah. So that's what I
like the
thought. I thought the venue would
plates and
provide that.
chairs and everything like that. So
Yeah, we
yeah.
have to. That's crazy. Good stuff. And shout out Mike Hardison. He's deep in wedding planning as well. A big hitter. We're getting married on the exact same day. All right, Spencer. Good stuff, man. It's awesome. Really good podcast here, I think. Check out check out roback.com. wearing the sweatshirt here. Check out their stuff. If you need a hoodie, sweatshirt, t-shirt, tons of great polos there, joggers. They have unbelievable clothing, really stretchy, really comfortable. Rowback.com. The new promo code is Big Hitters 20. Big Hitters 20. BIGHITTERS 20. Really helps us. Also, tell a friend about this podcast. Rate, review, subscribe, follow, like, engage. We love reading the comments, good or bad, on YouTube, and Apple and Spotify as well. Appreciate you guys.